All right, good morning, everyone. Appreciate you attending our pre-proposal conference. My name is Charles Rapp. I'm the planning director for Albemarle County here. I've got Bill Fritz, our development process manager. He'll be heavily involved in the zoning ordinance update over the next few years, as well as numerous other staff members. I also have Sharon Cash here. She is from our Office of Procurement to help answer some of the more technical questions that may come our way. And I will say this is my first pre-proposal conference over Zoom. We've had a lot of Zoom meetings. I've never done a proposal conference over this, so we'll see how it goes. Carolyn Schaefer is one of our clerks here. She's with us as well. She can help to facilitate questions. So if y'all have questions, please just raise your hand and she'll work to unmute you or whatever we need to do to get your question through. I posted a very basic agenda that I'll kind of go through, and then we can just open it up to see if y'all have questions about specifics. So this is for an RFP for consulting services to update the county's zoning ordinance. Most of the zoning ordinance is, exceeds probably 30, 40 years of life and is in need of an update. And so the way that we have structured this, this would be a multi-year contract, and we would develop phases, and we'll have task orders as we go through the phases. But so we have an initial phase outlined in this RFP that focuses on zoning district land use clarification and setbacks as kind of the first two sections. And then we're going to start tying this in coordination with our comprehensive plan update that's also starting about now. So as we finish sections of the comprehensive plan, we will identify sections of the zoning ordinance that correspond with that topic. So an easy one to talk about is natural resource planning. And so zoning ordinances that might relate to natural resources would be landscaping, lighting, stream buffers, kind of all that type of stuff. And we would just kind of sequence it that way as we develop certain chapters of the comp plan, and we update certain sections of the zoning ordinance, and then they would go through their adoption, and then we start over again with the next corresponding section. So this first phase is really taking a look at our zoning districts, and rather than have everything listed in every zoning category, we would like to transition more towards what you see in more modern codes of a chart, where you have the land use, and if it's permitted by right, special use permit within each category. So you can kind of reduce the redundancy within each zoning category. So that's kind of the first big step that we want to take in this phase. And then the other one is looking at our setbacks and trying to create much more simple version of setbacks that relate to each zoning designation. Currently, it takes basically a math degree to figure out how to apply our setbacks with the different uses in different zoning designations. We want to get something that's much more straightforward, much easier to use, and much easier to apply, that kind of matches industry standards, and of course what we like to do here in Albemarle County. So this RFP is set up in a way that we would ask for a lump sum based on an hourly rate not to exceed for this first phase, and then that would establish hourly rates that could then be used for the subsequent phases as we identify them over the next few years, working through our comprehensive plan. So it's similar to kind of an on-call consultant type approach, and that initial phase will help us determine expected costs and set those hourly rates for the future work over the next few years. So our time frame for this proposal, we're looking, we'll be working through this. We have an evaluation team. Bill is on that team as well. And I think you just saw Francis McCall just joined us from the zoning department here. It'll either be him and or Bart Svoboda helping with the evaluations of that. We would like to get a consultant on board by October. So it's about mid-October. It's kind of our time frame to have this wrapped up. With this, as we have transitioned to kind of a virtual world here and a digital world, submissions, we're asking that they be submitted digitally, with the last day for questions being September 1. And then, as I mentioned, this process, we're expecting this project to take about 3 years, and we've added an additional year that we could renew this, as most things take a little longer than expected. So with that, that's really all the specifics. We're happy to answer any questions that y'all might have, and provide whatever we can. So I will open it up to those of you that are in attendance, and see if there are any specific questions about our process, about the proposals due, or about the project. And I guess I will rely on Carolyn to help me. It looks like Janice has a question.
Hi, this is Janice Burl from Candid Keys Collaborative. And you mentioned that you have a comprehensive plan process starting. Are you doing that in-house, or is another consultant doing the comprehensive plan?
Thanks, it's a good question. We will be issuing an RFP for that shortly. That's going to kind of tag team a couple months behind. That's why we identified this first phase, which kind of was somewhat independent of the comp plan, as far as just kind of creating land uses into a more comprehensive chart based on the existing zoning ordinance and the setbacks that were a little less dependent on the comp plan. But we do plan to get that going, and we will have a consultant helping with that as well, in a similar fashion, for a 3 to 4 year period, with different phases. It'll be structured in almost the same manner.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Let's see, Mr. Tim Richards has a question.
Tim, go ahead and unmute yourself. You can ask your question.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Quick question about phase one. I think it makes sense. I think this is an interesting approach. The one issue I see is, I assume there will have to be some additional targeted edits and amendments in the zoning regulations based on the consolidation of uses into a use table. I say that because, the tentacles of the uses spread themselves all throughout the ordinance, and you're going to have all sorts of at least minor targeted amendments that will be needed as you overhaul and consolidate those uses. And I haven't looked at the list of uses. I don't know how much discrepancy there is from district to district, but I assume that that's included in the scope of that phase one as well.
I believe you're right, and I would agree. That certainly is going to stretch into, we're going to make sure we don't have inconsistencies as we go through this. I will say right now, our uses are extremely specific and exhaustive, and we want to kind of take a step back and bring those to more generalized uses. I guess Bill and Francis on the call with us would probably know more as to how far those tentacles reach throughout the zoning ordinance. But I could definitely see us at least identifying where those updates need to be if they aren't accomplished. If they're just too numerous, it might be future phases that we need to address.
There will be some need. There's particularly in regulations, for example.
And I can speak to this. It is a unique approach. This was based on the direction from our board of supervisors here. They really wanted to see us making progress as we go through this in kind of intervals, rather than a long extended, 3 to 5 year project on both, hoping that it ends, in a timely manner. They really want us to find a way to break this apart so that we could address some of the more pressing issues and actually get those adopted and move forward. So it is going to be a little bit piecemeal. I'm not going to lie about that. We're trying avoid that reality, but at least I think we will get there in the end, and we'll be able to focus on specifics that really matter as we go through it.
Yeah, great. Thanks for the clarification. for what it's worth, I have seen it done this way successfully many times in the past. So
Great, that's good to know. All right, Kelly Davis.
Hi, thank you so much. This is Kelly Davis with the Berkeley Group. I have a question with regard to the proposal preparation compared to the statement of needs. Under section 1, you talk about including a inventory and existing analysis, best practices and engagement and participation. And those items aren't clearly addressed under your statement of needs. Are you anticipating that there is going to be some kind of diagnostic process as part of phase 1? And if you could speak to any expectations with regard to public engagement.
Sure. My initial thoughts were that this kind of inventory would have to take place within each phase on the topics that we're looking at. So kind of an inventory analysis of the material that is being updated within each phase. So it wouldn't be exhaustive. I've actually worked with Berkeley Group on one of those diagnostics before, and so I'm familiar with the approach you're discussing. But I think rather, our zoning ordinance is very detailed. It's very lengthy. So that type of complete inventory and analysis of the entire code would be pretty time consuming. So I think we would just focus it to, an inventory for this first phase, inventory of the land uses, how they're listed, and some best practices throughout the state and the country. Same with setbacks. And then as we go through each one, kind of an analysis of what we have and some best practices to use. But that'll help us, I think, moving forward in presenting why we're proposing some significant changes to the way we've been doing business here. As we bring each component forward. As far as the engagement, there will be some public engagement, but primarily I think a lot of it will be staff driven. And we're really looking for a consultant to help with a lot of the workload here, the production work, and help us identify some of those best practices or maybe different ways of doing things and help us with that production. So we would be heavily involved in the public engagement side of this throughout every step of the way. There will be some meetings, obviously we would want a consultant there, but the public engagement approach would not be 100% on the consultant here. It would be more an advisory role as we work through it. Another question, Kelly?
Yes, thank you. So under phase 3, you speak to the need of street standards. Are you anticipating a need for street design specifications that would require an engineer as part of the team? And kind of along those lines, are there other phases that you would be looking for other highly detailed illustratives or design standards that would require engineering level specifications or landscape architecture, those kinds of teaming approach, basically?
Yeah, I do think we would go down that road. It's kind of updating and incorporating your typical sections, your different types of scenarios. One of the things we really been actually struggling with that's come to light is our street trees and sidewalk widths and multi-use paths, getting the right dimensions there. Same with referencing a lot of these are already set through VDOT, and VDOT does maintain the county roads here, so we essentially defer back to them. But getting those street standards as far as the widths for on-street parking and two-way traffic, things of all that nature, referenced correctly within our zoning ordinance, whether that's just referencing back to the VDOT standards or actually incorporating sections. I think we would be open to both, but I think certainly some graphic representation within our zoning ordinance goes a long way towards conveying the intent. Any other questions from the group? Well, with that, I certainly appreciate everyone's interest in the project, everyone's attendance this morning, and I believe Ms. Cash has her contact info is listed on our RFP. If anybody has additional questions as they come in, we'll be happy to answer those. And we look forward to moving through this process and getting started on this pretty transformative project for Albemarle County.
Yeah, Charles, if I could just ask all of the attendees to put in the chat their name and their firm so that we can post that with the first addendum, we'd appreciate that.
We don't use the chat. Sorry, we're not allowed to use the chat.
Yeah, we had to close that off months ago, unfortunately.
All right, thank you. We'll look at it a different way.
I can run a report for you.
Okay.
If they put in, there's 2 callers, so I wouldn't be able to have any information on them, but I can get that report for you and send it over as soon as the meeting's over.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We look forward to communicating with you all again soon.